red eyeliner's on, door is fucking open and I don't feel like closing it. We're gonna get into aspects. This is a long awaited video. I should have done a long ago. Never really got to it. Bless my Virgo Capricorn heart. I knew I would come back to it eventually. So here's another video in the starter introductory Astro 101 series here to get you all understanding of more of what I do with the monthly horoscopes, the new moon videos, what we mean when I talk about the aspects. Here's a little rundown. So first and foremost, aspects are the relationship between planets. So if you have not already seen my introduction to the planets video or my signs or houses videos, those were done like fucking year and a half ago. Jesus Christ, I remember doing those like right at the beginning of my like, I'm gonna take social media serious journey, and now we're like almost at 150k subscribers. Lord, like it's been a ride. But aspects will build on top of that. So I recommend that you watch the planet signs houses videos before or after this video. If you're already watching this, you can catch up. But essentially aspects are relationships between planets. So when you understand what aspects mean, you can then begin to weave the storyline of the chart together. And in this video, I'm going to run through basically the basics of aspects. In my course, I run through different qualities of bonification and maltreatment. In other words, very extreme specific storylines. In this, we're not going to run through like the nitty-gritty historical technical background to get us here, just aspects, what they mean, and how to spot them in a chart. I will say that in the charts that I use, I do not have aspect lines drawn. I think it looks like graffiti and is more confusing for me than just being able to identify them myself through my eye. However, to start out, you will probably want aspect line drawn on whatever software or online format you're using. Before we get started, as always, Swan Bitcoin is the safest, easiest place to buy Bitcoin. I have a referral link down below if you would like to use my link to dollar cost average or repeatedly buy into Bitcoin as I do along with trading. I also just put everything I have basically into Bitcoin or other crypto. I use Swan for Bitcoin. Use my link below, you'll get $10 off your first purchase. Hit that up if you're interested. So easiest metaphor, easiest way to think of this, I think. Planets are actors. Signs are the character they're playing. Houses are the scenes or the areas of life in the play that they're playing. Aspects are the relationship between the characters. So planets are the actors. They're in a specific sign. They're in a specific, role that they're playing. That's the lens. Then they're in a house, an area of life. That is the scene. And then aspects will be the relationship between these actors when they're in their roles. And it's also important to know that normally planets will be moving counterclockwise. So when we're calculating the aspect application, generally we're looking at planets moving counterclockwise in a chart. The direct motion is counterclockwise. If a planet is retrograde, it is moving clockwise, and you can think of it applying that way. Applying, I mean, is the motion it's moving in. Direct planets move counterclockwise. Retrograde planets move clockwise. Keep that in mind when we talk about applying and separating from these relationships. So with that, we can also think of sect. I talk about this in my planets video, but there's a day team and a night team. So the day team is Sun, Jupiter, and Saturn. And in that case, in daytime charts, the Sun, Jupiter, and Saturn are the good guys. They're the aspects that will be particularly positive or favorable. Jupiter will be the most positive planet in a daytime chart. Saturn will be a challenging planet, but not as challenging as Mars. The Moon, Venus, and Mars have less potential, therefore, in a daytime chart to offer helpful testimony. So Jupiter will offer the most favorable daytime aspects and position in a chart. Mars will offer the most challenging aspects in a daytime chart. In a nighttime chart, because the nighttime team is Moon, Venus, and Mars, Venus is going to be the most positive planet, going to offer the most positive aspects. Mars is going to be a challenging planet, but not as challenging as Saturn. Saturn in a nighttime chart is going to offer the most challenging testimony, in other words, aspects in the chart. So each planet, therefore, is emitting out 7 rays. Each planet is emitting 1 opposition, 2 trines, 2 squares, and 2 sextiles. We'll get into what each of these are, but it's important to note that every planet is sending out these rays. But if it lands on another planet, that is when the aspect happens, when there's a recipient. So each planet is emitting out a ray to an entire sign, but the closer it is by degree, the more intense the aspect is. So with left and right-sided aspects, if a planet is applying on the right, Basically, if a planet is moving counterclockwise and is in the upper position as it moves counterclockwise, it is then in a strong applying aspect. If the aspect is separating or it's on the left, it is a weaker aspect. If it is applying, it means that the faster moving planet is applying to the slower moving planet. If it is separating, it means that the faster moving planet is already moving away from the slower moving planet. So as we get into looking at this, each aspect, this will make more sense. But yeah, each planet is emitting out 7 rays, and they're emitting this to an entire sign, but if it hits a planet close within degree, that's when things get really, really intense. There are also 4 aversions. So they're sending out 7 rays, so 7 signs are hit. There's the sign that it's in, and there's 4 aversions or signs that a planet will not be aspecting. When a planet is not aspecting something, there's simply no relationship or storyline, for better or for worse. So the sign-based aspect is necessary, and then the degree-based aspect will happen if there's a planet there to receive. With applying versus separating aspects, essentially the faster-moving planet will be applying to the slower-moving planet. If the degrees are already moving apart, then it's separating. So in this example, I have Jupiter, which is squaring Saturn. Jupiter's at 19 degrees, Saturn is at 20 degrees. It's applying because Jupiter is earlier and it's applying. In the second image, Jupiter's at 21 degrees. It is applying to Saturn at 20 degrees. This means that it is separating because Jupiter is already beginning to move away from the square. A 1 degree separating aspect is weaker than a 1 degree applying aspect because applying aspects, the momentum's moving that way, so they're stronger by necessity. Not going to get into that too much here. We're going to stick to mainly what each of these symbolize, but I figured I'd throw that in there. The first aspect to look at is the sextile, which is 60 degrees. Essentially, there will be 1 sign in between signs, so there are 3 signs of, like, 3 signs. I never know how to phrase this in the most efficient way. There will be 1 sign between these signs to make them 60 degrees apart. So Cancer is sextile to Virgo and Cancer sextile to Taurus. That's an example. This is an aspect of opportunity. These 2 signs share polarity. They're both either masculine or feminine. It is the least powerful aspect possible. It is opportunity. It is of the nature of Venus. Venus is associated with this aspect, which I get into explaining why in my course. But essentially, Venus, it's nice. It's not the strongest. It's nice. I rarely will mention these in my daily horoscopes because they do not always manifest. They're more so the opportunity. It's kind of nice, or it's a cherry on top. The next aspect is the square. It is 90 degrees. It literally makes a square. It is a tense aspect of constant friction. All cardinal, all fixed, and all mutable signs are square one another. So it's like infighting on a team. They're on the same team, they're operating in the same kind of worldview, but there's direct combat because it's different elements and different polarities. Cancer is square to Aries, is square to Capricorn, is square to Libra. Any square at a given time will be of a different polarity, either masculine or feminine, and a different element, either be earth or water, or it'll be fire or air. They'll always be in that direct combat. It's of the nature of Mars. So this is a directly combative aspect. The opposition, which is another challenging aspect, is a bit more confrontational, I'd say. This is infighting within a team. It's fighting between siblings. It is like constant nagging. This is challenging unless Venus or Jupiter are in the earlier zodiacal order. If they're in the earlier counterclockwise position, Jupiter or Venus, this is then a positive aspect. Venus or Jupiter are in the superior square, so to speak. This suddenly becomes positive. The next degree-based aspect is a trine, which is 120 degrees, and it is supremely harmonious. This is of signs of the same element. So it's always a grand earth trine, grand water trine. That creates that triangle trine. The closer it is to 120 degrees between planets exactly, that's the strength of that trine. And this is flow without too much effort. This is same polarity, same element. It's effortless. It appears in life. There's not too much thought. This is why some aspects consider trines to be lazy, because sometimes we take them for granted or do not see them showing up in our own lives. I disagree a little bit. I like to say that it depends on the context, but it usually is very, very harmonious and positive. It's of the nature of Jupiter. It is effortless cooperation. If Venus or Jupiter are involved, in the upper hand, it's bonification, which is utmost harmony especially. And the final aspect is the opposition, which is the most tense, intensely combative aspect. It is 180 degrees, exactly opposite one another. There's a great view of each planet from one another. Each sign has an opposition. If there's a planet in each sign and they're close to 180 degrees, boom, that is direct conflict. There's a great view of one another. It's like across the dinner table or on the debate stage. You're right up against each other. They're of the same polarity, either both masculine or both feminine, so they can communicate and see each other, but of an opposite element. It is Cancer Capricorn. It is Aries Libra. There's a rivalry and a polarization, and planets in opposition, it's not generally about finding a middle ground balance. It's about integrating both extremes in a way that is not combative in the life. It's of the nature of Saturn, which divides and severs. And
I'm having trouble hearing you.
Oh my God, that scared the shit out of me. That was very, like, boom, oppositional. It's of the nature of Saturn and very polarizing. You might be wondering, what about the conjunction? We'll talk about it, but it's not technically an aspect, because an aspect involves seeing the other planet. In a conjunction, the planets are on top of one another and cannot see each other. So it is a relationship, it is a conversation, but it is not technically an aspect like the other things, but we lump it in with them because that's just a technical formality. So planets in the same sign are in a co-presence. The closer they are to 0 degrees apart, the closer they are conjunct. So planets cannot see each other, but it is a blending and therefore altogether neutral. It'll depend on the nature of the planets to indicate the combination of the qualities and joint area of life. To touch back onto aversions for a bit, if a planet cannot see those 4 signs it is averse to, that are 2, 4, 8, and 12 houses away from it, there's a lack of conversation and therefore no affinity, and you might hear it as in conjunction, or quincunx, or semi-sextile. In modern astrology, they'll use those words. It is an anti-aspect. Like, the aspect does not exist, and that is why there's not a relationship. Like, it's a designation of a lack of affinity. It can either be like a thank God, these planets don't see each other good, or it can be challenging if you wish that they were to see each other. Every planet is always witnessing 7 signs and in aversion 2, 4. So that is how the storyline weaves together. So if you enjoy this, let me know down below any comments, questions you might have. Happy to answer some of those in the comments for this video, especially because I know that this can be challenging to integrate when you're starting out. But let me know down below any video requests, things that you want clarified, and I will see you in the next one. Sending love.